You're listening to Ecto Portal, a journey into the unknown with Anthony Anderson and Verna Wilson.
I hope that you are seated comfortably, with the light turned down and the curtains drawn.
Hello, once again, for another journey into the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplored, the unexplained. Ecto Portal, I'm Anthony Anderson, your host, and I'm here with my co-host,
Verna Wilson,
and a special guest,
Erin Gilly.
That's right, and she has a connection to our show tonight about the ghosts of the Winchester Mystery House. She's one of the lucky few who has seen a ghost at the Winchester Mystery House. So we'll talk about that and go into some details, maybe about the house and other paranormal experiences that you might have encountered. That'll be cool.
Cool. Sounds good.
But first, we're going to go a little bit about the house, and then we'll go right over to you to talk with you about your experience and others that you said you knew of. So the house itself was built in 1884. It was in a mansion in San Jose. It was once the personal residence of Sarah Winchester, the widow of firearm magnate William Wirt Winchester, located at 525 South Winchester Boulevard in San Jose. The Queen Anne Victorian Mansion is renowned for its style, architectural curiosities, its size, and its lack of any master plan building. It is designated a California Historical Landmark and is on the list of the National Registry of Historic Places. It is privately owned and serves as a tourist attraction. Since its construction, the property mansion has been claimed by many to be haunted by the ghosts of those killed with the Winchester rifles. Under Winchester's day-to-day guidance, it's from the ground-up construction, proceeded around the clock by some accounts without interruption until her death, September 5th, 1922. And at that time, work immediately ceased. Sarah Winchester's biographer, however, says that Winchester routinely dismissed workers for months at a time to take a rest, as I might, and notes that this flies in the face of claims by today's Mystery House proprietors that work at the ranch was ceaseless for 38 years.
I imagine lots of noise, too. She probably wanted all the banging to stop.
Maybe.
I don't know. Just a guess.
After her husband's death from tuberculosis in 1881, Sarah Winchester inherited more than $20.5 million, equivalent to $532 million in 2018.
Wow.
She received nearly 50% ownership of the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, giving her an income of roughly $1,000 per day, equivalent to $26,000 a day in 2018.
Wow.
This inheritance gave her a tremendous amount of wealth, which she used to fund the ongoing construction. And tabloids at that point, after her infant daughter had died of an illness known as marasmus, a children's disease in which the body wastes away. Her husband died of pulmonary tuberculosis. A Boston medium told her, while supposedly channeling her late husband, that she should leave her home in New Haven and travel west, where she must continually build a home for herself and the spirits of the people who have fallen victim to the Winchester rifles. Winchester left New Haven and headed for California, though it is possible she was simply seeking a change of location and a hobby during her lengthy depression. Other sources, of course, say that Winchester came to believe her family and fortune were haunted by the ghosts, and that only by moving west and continuously building them a house could she appease these spirits.
Okay, and in 1884, she purchased an unfinished farmhouse in the Santa Clara Valley. She began building her mansion, and there were carpenters that they were hired and worked on the house day and night until it became a 7-story mansion. She did not use an architect, and she added on to the building in a haphazard fashion, so the home contained numerous oddities such as doors and stairs that go nowhere, windows overlooking other rooms, and stairs with odd-sized risers. Many accounts attribute those oddities to her belief in ghosts. Environmental psychologists have theorized that the odd layout itself contributes to the feeling of the house being haunted today. What they also don't know is that she was a Rosicrucian as well, and she built some chambers for the Rosicrucian inner sanctuary that were designed for that. But the Rosicrucians knew this.
You got to wonder if those, because after the earthquake, she leveled a lot of floors because they used to go up further, and she leveled them. You wonder if those might be some of those that she leveled.
Right. Before the 1906 earthquake, the house had been 7 stories high, and carpenters may have been brought in initially to repair damages caused by the quake, as we were just talking about. Today, it is only 4 stories. The house is predominantly made of redwood, as Mrs. Winchester preferred the wood. However, she disliked the look of it. She therefore demanded that a foul grain and stain be applied. This is why almost all the wood in the home is covered. Approximately 2500 total 25,500 total collapse in the 1906 earthquake and the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake. This type of construction allows the home to shift as it is not at fireplaces over. I'm sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought here. As it is not fireplaces, over 10,000 panes of glass, 17 chimneys with evidence of 2 others, 2 basements, and 3 elevators. Winchester's property was about 162 acres at one time, but the estate has since been reduced to 4.5 acres.
She owned a lot of property around
She
the house.
did. And California San Jose back then was a lot of orchards and farmland. It wasn't the huge suburb it is today. The minimum necessary to contain the house and nearby debilitating arthritis. It has gold and silver chandeliers, hand-inlaid parquet floors and trim, a vast array of colors and materials. Due to her debilitating arthritis, which I was trying to get to right there, special easy riser stairways were installed as a replacement for her original steep construction, and it allowed her to move about and freely as she was able to raise each foot only a few inches. And there was only one working toilet for her, but all other restrooms were decoys to confuse spirits. Can you imagine if... Never mind. Okay. This is also the reason why she slept in a different room each night. The home's conveniences were very rare at the time of its construction. And that includes steam and forced air heating, modern indoor toilets and plumbing, push-button gas lights, and Mrs. Winchester's personal hot shower from indoor plumbing. There were also 3 elevators, including an Otis electric, and one of which was powered by a rare horizontal hydraulic elevator piston. And most elevator pistons are vertical to save space, but Winchester preferred the improved functionality of the horizontal configuration. She was very innovative, advanced for her time. They didn't have a lot of those working, a lot of that in homes back then. So,
well, when you have that much money, you do.
Yeah.
So let's stop there.
Okay.
So I'm still caught up on the one working toilet in all those rooms.
Well,
what the hell?
I was about to
didn't know
say,
that.
can you imagine if you really had to go bad
What if
and
she
there
was on the other side of the property and like,
yeah,
oh,
what are you
no.
going to do? Run to the one working
Like,
toilet?
oh crap! I can't get through here. Oh,
I think
this is
there
a wall.
are chamber pots in some of the rooms
Yeah,
too. They
there
have those
must
on the
be.
tour at least.
I would hope
That
so.
would make sense. That would make more sense because, like, oh, I can't
Yeah.
get through here. There's a wall here. Oh, why did I put that wall here? Why didn't I put a hallway?
And you really had to go bad.
Yeah. All right. So, Erin,
Yeah.
you actually are spending time at the Winchester Mystery House currently.
Yeah, I am. We're doing a haunted house there called Unhinged. And we can't really build and rehearse there during the daytime tours. And so we've been there a lot of very late nights.
When did you guys start?
We started, let's see, about a month, 6 weeks ago. Yeah, it's been pretty fast.
Wow.
We're
So
open now.
every night?
Yeah,
Oh
long
my
nights.
God.
Yeah. Yeah, so I had an experience, and then another guy on our team had an experience that I can relay secondhand.
Awesome.
But yeah, you go into the house, and like I'm not like a big ghost person. I think it's all really fascinating, but I'm not. I guess I'm not really a true believer. I'm open-minded,
yeah.
but not a
it's
true
not gonna
believer.
Take my life over anything.
Yeah, and so I wasn't really expecting anything. And you go into the house, and it's beautiful, but it's very disorienting, and so there you do get a weird, energetic feeling from it, and like it's just the walls. I don't know if they're not quite straight, and the stairs are strange, and you forget what floor you're on, so it's got a creepy vibe.
I wonder if because you're in there, and you kind of know when you walk into a house if it seems normal as an environment. I guess when you walk into that, you'd be like, whoa, something is way off.
Yeah, it is not a normal
Totally.
place. Yeah. And, a lot of the staff have been there for years and years, and so there's all this, lore that they tell you about and that they believe in. So you kind of go out and you're a little...
Did they tell you they had any experiences?
Yeah, they and we put a couple in our show. There's a lot of people apparently have heard barking dogs that aren't there, and they like go and look, and there are no dogs, and you can hear dogs. And there's a groundskeeper that people see a lot, I guess. So that was...
I've heard of him, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, the groundskeeper.
Didn't Sarah Winchester have dogs? She did, didn't she?
I think so.
Yeah.
She had dogs and horses around because...
Maybe the dog's just still there.
Yeah, and the other I thought really neat detail, the staff, they told us it's respectful to say goodnight, Sarah, whenever you leave her bedroom. So we would often have to go through her room to get places, and so everybody would say goodnight, Sarah.
Isn't that bed incredible? That bed she slept in?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
So everybody has to say goodnight to Sarah.
Yeah. Wow. So you get a vibe when you're going in. Yeah, it's respectful. So even if people don't believe, you can still kind of feel something, and you're respectful.
But maybe
for
she
sure.
would respect you guys because you guys are working around the clock at night to set and
true.
build.
Yeah.
So
maybe it's familiar.
she's exactly. She's,
She's like, oh yeah,
normal to her. Like, they're building. Good. I wonder what kind of room this is. Maybe not, Sarah. Go back to bed.
Yeah.
I mean, you feel it the minute you walk in the place.
Yeah, you really do.
And around the courtyard, too, especially the part where the coaches used to come in, that one part. Oh, my God, it's so thick in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what time do you guys usually come in?
So we start like 6 p.m. right on the dot, and a lot of our haunted house is off the main tour, so we can actually do a little bit. Like we're in the basement and some of the unfinished areas, so we can get in sort of around 5 to start working, but really 6 p.m. is when we start in earnest. And then, we were there till midnight and 2 in the morning a lot of nights getting it ready.
8-hour shifts in there. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
How many of you are there?
We have 28 actors, and then the tech team's about 5 people. So,
do you have all the actors there, too, or just the tech team right now?
The show's running now, so...
Oh, it is running now? Okay.
Yeah, we're open.
Well, how long is it running for?
Up until November 2nd, so through the whole
November 2nd.
Halloween
That's
season.
great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And where can they go to get tickets for that?
The Winchester Mystery House website has
they're
it. Yeah, it's
Very
called
cool.
Unhinged. And
How much is the attraction?
some days are $40, some are $50. So if you go like on a Thursday, it's a little cheaper. And if you go the Halloween night, that's the most expensive. So yeah, there's a range.
That's typical.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly.
Cool. Now you had your own experience, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and like I said, I really wasn't looking for it. I wasn't expecting it. But yeah, we were rehearsing. If you've been on the tour, so you can go to Sarah Winchester's bedroom, and then right around the corner, there's her bathtub room that has the working shower that you mentioned in the history. And so we were in there rehearsing. It was really late. The staff's all gone. It was just me and a couple of actresses. And in that bathroom, there's a very weird staircase that goes from the bathroom up into an office, and it has these kind of decorative window peepholes, I guess, where you can look through the staircase and up at the office. You know what I mean? Yeah, and so if you've been on the tour, up in that office area, they have a typewriter that plays nonstop, kind of like a player piano. So there's always this typewriter in the background going type, typity, type, type, type. And so we were in there rehearsing, and I just walked by and I happened to glance through that window peephole up into the room, and I saw a woman sitting at the typewriter, like wearing a 20s gown with her, perfect, beautifully coiffed 20s haircut and this little bob, just like really focused, typing at the typewriter. And my first thought, I was like, oh, that's weird. Why are the staff here dressed up in 20s outfits? They must be practicing for something. And then I turned away and I'm like, no one's here. It's very late. Like, they don't have anything like that coming up. And then I turned back and it was completely gone.
Oh, so you saw somebody working there for
Yeah.
in period costume.
So was it an actual office up there that they did use? Like offer for a room or something?
Yeah, I don't know. It looks like it. It's a little alcove.
Wow.
Yeah, but it looked. I mean, it looked like as clear as day, like a flesh and blood person sitting there. But there was no one there, and there's no one who could have been there. No reason for anyone to have been there. So.
But definitely the 20s.
Yeah, she had the bob haircut. So I don't know. I guess people could have worn those later, but sometime 20s or later, where she had that kind of,
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm just sitting right there at the desk.
Did she
just
look at
typing
you, or
away.
is she doing her own thing?
She was completely focused on the typewriter, and I saw her in profile. Yeah,
And the
that was
typewriter
it.
looked like one of those old typewriters.
Yeah,
where,
it's one of those old-timey typewriters.
Were you able to go?
typewriter-
Do you have the access
Wow.
to go up there?
Yeah, that's we have access to it. And I went up there and I looked around.
So you didn't hesitate? You just went up there?
No, I hesitated first because I looked, I saw her, and rationally I was like, oh, that must be someone here. And then when I kind of stopped to think about it, I was like, that doesn't make sense. And then
Nobody's here.
yeah. So I had some of the actors that I'm working with. I was like, did you just see that? And then they came around, they looked. They're like, no, we don't see anything. I went up, popped my head, and there was nobody there.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very vivid. But yeah, I don't know. It could be your mind playing tricks on you, or too much caffeine late at night, or something like that. But I've never seen anything like that before, in
Was
similar
she,
circumstances.
Older, younger?
Colors?
She was,
Do you know her colors, skin? Was it
Yeah, she was
regular skin
pale,
color?
young, pale. She, it was in profile, so I couldn't really see her face, but she looked like she was probably pretty. She had her makeup and her hair, pale, sort of a rose gold dress that looked kind of 20s.
Nice.
Yeah, she's a little bit
Fashionable.
glamorous, fashionable. Yeah.
Well, I imagine Mrs. Winchester would have been fussy about the workers looking nice because she was a well-off woman, and
Yeah.
So
What's interesting is that it sounds like a residual haunting as opposed to a haunting.
right.
Now, residual meaning a reoccurring pattern of someone who did something years ago in the same spot, and for a brief moment, you're able to see whether it's energy or whatever. You're able to see that reoccurring action in its location. That's called a residual haunting.
That sounds, it
Something
was like a
that doesn't interact
flashback
with
or
you,
something.
doesn't
right.
look at you, doesn't acknowledge you.
Yeah.
Sometimes people see people walk right in front of them and they don't even acknowledge them.
Yeah.
That's a residual versus a haunting where she turned and looked at you, walked down the stairs after you.
Yeah.
Something fell off a shelf, she disappears, is wreaking havoc. That's a haunting versus a residual haunting. So it sounds like it's residual. That's interesting, though.
Yeah, there was nothing threatening about it at all. But we got out of there. It was very, it was very
And it always happens when you
strange.
least expect it, too.
Yeah.
You're like,
Oh,
you weren't
totally.
looking for it. You're working, all of a sudden
Yeah.
it's like, who's that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be curious. I would ask one of the tour guides or a few of them just to see what their answers are and ask what that little room was used for.
Yeah.
If it was for a secretary to
And if they
type,
spotted her before, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or I wouldn't even say that. I would
Oh,
just
sure.
ask
The
what the
question,
room's
just-
for.
Yeah.
Like, what is that room used for? Do you
Oh,
know who's-
sure, that would be
'cause they-
good.
I mean, I don't
That's
know
a
if
good
they
idea.
would know that many years later.
I bet one of the old timers might have a good guess, but yeah.
Maybe.
'Cause I don't. The way I'm not sure how realistically they've set the house up, but they certainly intend it to look like this is how it was used. But who knows?
I'd be curious. I would ask
Yeah.
around and say, that little room up, with the...
Yeah.
I would ask, what was that used for? Oh, that was an old office. And
Yeah.
you're like, find out who Sarah Winchester's secretary was.
Yeah.
Then you
That
can
would be
find out
good,
who
and
you saw.
we can
Yeah.
find out. We can actually find out by doing some history of the house and who the workers were. I mean, and they can actually look up the records and see if it was a young lady who
They
used to work
probably
for
know
her.
if she had a personal secretary. I'm sure
Yeah.
someone at
Yeah.
the house would know that. That would be on record.
Yeah, and with the archives. Yeah,
Oh, cool. That's a very cool idea.
yeah. I think
That's interesting.
it's always good to verify what you're seeing as to what happened because the verifications make it all so much.
And this debunks what people think. Oh my God, it's scary. It floated right at me. She was glowing. And no, they're
Yeah.
actually very normal. When
No,
people see
it's
them,
normal. Yeah.
Whether it's a residual or whether it's just... I actually had a theory years ago. I still think about it occasionally. That they're not necessarily ghosts at all. Like we talk about time and time overlaps, and we're learning all things about time with like string theory and stuff. That maybe for a moment, that was a moment in time that you saw. everything was like in a perfect storm. The energies, the time of the night, whatever. But you just had a glimpse of that moment in time, and that was it. It wasn't a ghost.
I think that's a great theory.
That's what it felt like. Yeah.
You were able to see it because you were looking at the right place at the right time at
And
the right
did it
moment.
feel different just for a moment? Because I mean, for a moment you might have stepped in time for.
I mean, I was looking
ripple.
through that little window, and so that's all I was seeing. Got very focused on it, and then things did kind of freeze for a second. It's like.
Did you notice
what? And
anything else around her? Like, was it an actual typewriter she was using?
Yeah, because there's a real typewriter there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
You might have stepped in time just for a second, like he said, a time ripple. That's very cool.
There's more to that house than we know then.
Totally more to that house. There was a lot of, I'm sure that it took a lot of people to run it, including, office workers and
Yeah.
people to do her letters and
Of
her
course.
and everything. Yeah.
She had her staff. She didn't go anywhere, but she had a staff. So I guess the only thing she ever spent her money on was her house. It's not like she had big parties.
Yeah.
I heard she did. I heard she had a lot of dinner parties and a lot of prominent people came to the house as part of the history.
Well, I know she was huge into spiritualism, big time.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause
The seance
at the late
room is wow.
1800s, it carried over from England to New York, obviously Connecticut, and then and obviously back in San Francisco. So she was right in the prime spiritualistic period where, like, what's his face? Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Author.
Right. Arthur
Sir
Conan
Arthur
Doyle.
Conan Doyle, who
Yes.
was a huge spiritualist and believed in almost everything, unfortunately. Whereas, like, Houdini didn't and tried to debunk. And
Sure.
they would go on tours. Houdini would debunk seances. He would recreate them on stage and debunk them. Whereas Arthur Conan Doyle would bring the mediums on stage to try and recreate them. So it's interesting, at that period, there was still both sides of the coin. Like, we don't believe in this. But they say it was stemmed from the Civil War in America.
Sure.
Whenever there's a war, people are mourning. So they want to believe, they want to have a message from someone.
Sure.
So they think every time we have a major war, the spiritualism kicks up a notch.
It does.
And then it levels down again. So, I don't know.
Well, since you've been in all over the house, did you go in the seance room? Because that's when I went in
Did you
there.
have free
That's
run
where
of the
I.
house ever?
Yeah.
That's where I
Yeah,
felt
we
the
did.
most energy was that seance room. But did you
Yeah.
go? Did you go in there?
Yeah, I certainly went in there. We weren't working in there, but I went and just checked it out.
Yeah.
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 So.
Yeah, and then one of the guys that I was working with, he had another experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this might be more like a haunting, like you're describing.
Okay.
His was a little scarier.
Okay.
He's definitely like very cavalier. I don't believe in ghosts, whatever. Everything's fine. Like kind of tough guy about it. And he was there alone, really late, and he was off in an unfinished wing of the house, like working on some stuff. He said it was really quiet, really still night, and a door just slammed, went bang. And, kind of made the hair stand up in the back of his head.
Is he by himself?
He's by himself. It's very late. It's like midnight or 2 in the morning or something.
Oh my God.
And then he's looking at the door and it opens up again and then just bang and slams at him twice. And then he was just white as a sheet and ran out of the house. He's like, I'm not going back in there.
Somebody said, "Get out of here!" Slamming the
Yeah.
door.
I wonder what room
Angry.
it was.
It's called the unfinished wing to us. I'm not sure if that's what they're calling it, but yeah, it's like there's a sort of
I've seen it.
conservatory. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, he was over there.
Interesting.
But
Someone wanted him out.
Yeah,
of there.
exactly.
Like, how can I do this to make him leave? Let me just slam this
Yep,
door.
and it worked.
No
He was
breeze,
like,
no
way.
nothing?
No, that's what he said. It wasn't a windy night. There was no draft. Like none
Is
of.
there any windows in the room, I wonder?
I mean,
Look at me, a ghost
yeah.
hunter, trying to figure out.
I know.
Debunk it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, but yeah, they said the way that it like
But to
opened
open
back
and
up.
slam again.
Yeah, exactly. That's what made it super weird. Because the first time he was
That
like,
would
maybe it's a
scare-
draft.
That would scare anybody if you're by
Yeah,
yourself in the house.
scared the crap out of him.
Of course it would.
I would have a camcorder set up in 2 seconds.
It would scare. It wouldn't scare Anthony though. Anthony
Never.
would want to stay there more and say, "Okay, what's going on?"
I would love to
Yeah.
just spend the night just sitting in some of the rooms quietly.
Me too.
Yeah.
But they don't like that there. It's funny is they had, I want to say about 3 years ago, they had an article that ran in San Jose about Winchester Mystery House, soon to offer overnights. We're putting in a restaurant with a liquor license, and we're adding rooms so people can actually stay the night. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. People can spend the night at the Mystery House. And everyone was getting excited. They're like, oh, we expect to open in the fall. Now I go to the site yesterday, and it says, we do not have overnights. Please stop asking. And if anybody ever asks that, tell them we do not have any plans. Like, wow, what a complete turnaround.
Yeah.
I wonder why they did that. Obviously, it might have been another publicity director who thought, you could get some more money if you got people that could stay. And then they fired that person and said, get out of here.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they weren't prepared for it, and they just realized it wouldn't work. So.
Well, it could be the liquor license. Without the liquor license, a lot of people won't
that's
do it
true.
'cause you make a lot of money that way. If you have a restaurant with a liquor license and people stay the rooms right there, they don't have far to go. I don't know. It's a thought that could be why. Which is too bad. I would love to investigate. I'd love to go there and stay overnight.
Yeah, they've got a bar there, but it closes, I guess.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the bar.
Get a drink there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
Okay, so maybe they got the liquor license and just didn't want to do the rooms.
I wouldn't stay the night. I don't know. It's
Really?
it builds up. It builds up after a while when you're there, and it's like eventually you're just like, I gotta get out of here. It starts to
but
kind
you're
of
there like every night for
that's
weeks.
true.
Or maybe
That's
they were
true.
worried about people being in the house by themselves and staying overnight. Maybe they just thought it wasn't a good idea after all.
It is a very delicate house. with
Yeah.
the wallpaper and the architecture and stuff.
I would
yeah,
pick
no.
the ugliest wing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
And I would flip it and just make you could have 6 bungalow rooms.
Yeah, it is huge.
well,
They got
somebody
plenty
like
of
us
space.
who's very careful and respectful of places we go to,
You know how you do it.
it's okay, but who knows if there's somebody else, staying overnight. Oh, I'm going to look upstairs. I'm going to see.
Just charge $500 a night. That'll cut out a lot of the riffraff who can't.
It will. It totally will.
Well, you'll have paranormal groups to pay that.
That's true.
See, that's the problem. If they had a paranormal investigation program, and most of the houses that are being restored, of course, they have all the money in the world there now. Obviously, they're doing so well enough they don't need that. But I know a lot of historic house museums have like a 3-hour investigation, 10 people, someone leads them around room to room. They sit quietly, they watch everything they do, and they make $200, $300, $400, $500 in a 3-hour period. If you did that, 4 or 5 nights a week, you're bringing in cash. And a lot of museums desperately need money, so they do that. I have a hunch the Winchester Mystery House does not need to do that. They do have those Halloween flashlight tours.
Yeah.
Which I was
I've heard about
on the
that.
site reading
Yeah.
one of them. It's actually pretty elaborate.
Yeah.
And I would love to do, I think it's the Friday the 13th, or I don't think it's the Halloween one, where they actually take you from room to room and they go on the property. Just a lot of space that you cover, like 6 acres total or something. I would love to do that one.
Have you been in the new wing of the house that they opened? Remember they discovered those new rooms?
Yeah, we just walked through it, but I didn't spend any real time there.
Yeah. It's a little bit separate from the rest of the house, but it's in the other side. Yeah.
Can you imagine when it was 7 floors up? I mean,
I know.
It's already a huge house.
If you have
and
4
even
floors
that
now,
much
you're
bigger.
missing almost 3/4
Yeah.
that used to be there besides that.
Well, I can imagine the staff working there, the servants having to go back and forth. They had to get to know that house. So they probably, but all those floors would walk back and forth.
And you'd know how to hide from Sarah Winchester too, wouldn't you?
They would know how to hide from Sarah Winchester if they needed to hide from her. So.
But I heard she would build something and build a room, and then she'd all right, stop. And she'd board it up and say, don't use that room anymore. We're going to start doing something else.
I don't know. There's all these different myths. It depends who you talk to. I don't know.
That's just
It's
it.
like what the real story is,
See, I guess her niece, it used to say, oh, it's haunted. Sarah Winchester haunts the Winchester Mystery House. And the niece is like, no, it's not her. She's not haunting that place. It's not haunted. There's no ghost there. That's all rubbish by the publicity and the press. I'm like,
The same niece who was characterized in the movie?
don't believe the movie.
No, not the movie, but they had her niece, remember?
Yeah.
In the movie? So I don't know if this character was supposed to take after the real niece who used to dispute people with that.
I don't know. I just know that she wanted to poo-poo all the paranormal stuff of the house. And I saw on YouTube someone posted like a I want to say the 40s or the 50s. It's 2 couples, literally it's a color film. It's like 2 minutes. Them walking around and touring the mystery house back then. Mm-hmm. And it looks really, really
different.
desolate and isolated.
Yes.
Not many people
Uh-huh.
are there. It's just weird to see somebody's home movie of that, like that far away.
Well, that's how the house was when I was growing up. I'm from San Jose. Well, I was born here, but I was raised in San Jose, and we lived in that neighborhood in the nearby the vicinity, and we've been on the house tours maybe very few times, but it was quiet. Only the locals knew about it. Very, very small tour groups. It was a very small gift shop. And to me, it seemed more, coming back to it later, the earlier tours, it seemed more like the atmosphere that they were used to, where it's just the quiet and in an isolated place. And you can really feel how these people felt and lived, and how these people, you can feel the energy in that house still. And a lot of people, and at the time, they were advertising still that it was haunted, because they advertise it as just a fact. You know how a lot of places, when they want tourists, they don't advertise the fact something's haunted? Well, Winchester House did, and they didn't care what people thought. And people would come in just to see how weird the house was. But they would mention, is this house haunted? They would say, yes, we believe it is. But they would say it quietly, matter of fact.
Well, you got to ask yourself, either it's haunted and she built the rooms to appease the ghosts, or she's just crazy.
Yeah, this was the 60s and the 70s when
I think it's easier to sell ghosts than crazy.
Yeah,
just saying.
Yeah, I'd also read that she was keeping people employed, like during the Depression, I guess. So
Sure.
she's, like, so she could be eccentric, but there was also this generosity about keeping all the workers employed. So it's like,
Yeah.
sure, build another staircase, build another room that doesn't go anywhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd love to go back in time just to see her theories on giving people directions. Like, why am I building this? Now, what about the whole theory about she would go into her seance room and get automatic writing? And the movie does show some
Oh,
of this,
yeah, she did do that, yeah.
where she got her instructions from the spirit world on what to build the next day.
Oh, cool.
And she would give it to the foreman. The movie uses some of the legend stuff. Now, whether that was true or not, I don't know. That seems a little far-fetched to me. But if you build a house to appease ghosts, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
I kind of wish they went into that part a little bit more, where she was contacting the spirits and in the seance room instead of all the... I kind of wish they went into that a little more, because that's what she was into. So
Yeah, the movie's okay.
it's not bad, but it's
not
but
great.
if they took out the Hollywood effects and just kept to the real story and went into the history, and especially the history of San Jose, which there was a lot of spiritualist groups in San Jose. San Jose was a town where spiritualists really resided there. I wish they would have gone into that a little bit more, but, well, it was their movie, not mine, so.
Yeah,
But I do love Helen Mirren, who played the part.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was talking about how she never heard of the Mystery House. She never heard of Sarah Winchester. She heard of the rifles, but that was it. But then I guess it was shot in Australia. They built a replica house in
Really?
Australia.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And the only thing shot in San Jose was the exteriors of the house and just walking around. But when they built the replica house in Australia, after they were done, they tore it down.
Oh, wow.
But I guess it's a
Crazy.
sad.
But she did
photograph.
visit San Jose because they shut it off for a little while for her on location
Yeah,
in San
to
Jose.
shoot
yeah,
outside the house.
Right.
There's
I heard she was pretty fascinated with it, Helen.
Well, she was intrigued to play the part because she said, well, nobody knows if she was crazy. Nobody knows whether she was just obsessed with the occult and spiritualism. She said nobody knows, so it was up to her to kind of play both sides. In the movie, she kind of does play both. Like, is she crazy? Is she... Because her doctor's like, you're a little nuts.
Oh yeah, the doctor. Yeah.
That's the movie. I know the movie just heightens everything. So I don't know whether that's true or not. No one will really know unless we keep finding letters stuck in the floor and in the walls.
Who knows
her
what else
lo-
they would? Who knows what else they're going to
Her
find
lost
as they do?
No,
as
I wasn't crazy.
As they do more restoring to the house, you never know. They might find some more stuff. I mean, who knows what's still in that house?
Yeah.
So-
it could be a room full of stuff. I know
Yeah.
they had rooms, and I remember reading this a long time ago, rooms full of supplies
Uh huh.
that had never been used.
They do.
Like plywood and flooring. And
You can see it when you go in.
Wallpaper
Oh,
and
that plumbing room.
Yeah, that plumbing room. You can see it when you go in. If you ever visited, Anthony, that
I
plumbing
haven't
room.
yet. I should go. I need to go.
You do need to go. If you ever go to that you can see all the supplies still just piled up in that plumbing room right there. And then also the wood where in that other room, while that wood piled up, you can totally see all the supplies that they didn't use. Yeah.
It's like as soon as she died in 22, this work stopped. Now I noticed the first time that the tour opened was 27. Mm-hmm. So 5 years. It took 5 years for them to go, okay, she's dead. She's not coming back, we don't think. And then it opened up the tours.
And didn't her relatives, weren't they very, very present during the opening of the house? And
That I don't know.
Yeah, I heard, well, I don't know if this is true either, and the workers whoever works there can dispute this, but I heard that when they first opened the house after she passed away, that her relatives were very involved in disputing all the silly things about her, and they wanted to give tours to keep her legend alive.
See, that would explain the niece then, trying to keep low-key She built it for the ghosts.
Right.
Well, if she didn't do that, what did she build these rooms for?
I wonder if she has any living relatives now who can...
Interesting enough, her maiden name was Pardee.
Pardee,
and there is
yeah.
a Pardee house, historic house in Oakland.
Oh, yeah, I've always wanted to visit that house, actually.
It's a cool house. And they had money, and I wouldn't be surprised if she isn't related to the Pardees.
Oh, yeah.
As well.
They were wealthy, wealthy folks.
But she's from back east, so I don't know, maybe some of her relatives were moved here. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'd be curious to... Pardee is... I mean, it's not a totally uncommon name, but it's not that common. Mm-hmm. So who knows?
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to stick around or do you want to take off?
I'll head out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming
guys.
on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this is really
Appreciate
fun.
it.
Thank you so much, Erin.
Yeah.
It was great.
Cool.
We're going to have to stop by the Winchester Mystery House now.
Yeah, do the daytime tour and the
If you
nighttime
see
tour.
any more ghosts, let us know.
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely
well,
let us know.
Keep an eye on that.
Cool.
You never know who might pop up between now and the end of Halloween or November, right?
Yeah, November 2nd.
So go to the
Yeah, I'll let
Winchester
you know.
Mystery House website. I'm trying to remember what it was. Do you remember what the website is?
Isn't it WinchesterMysteryHouse.com?
That
Yeah,
sounds-
something like that. You'll find it
Yeah,
if you
I
Google
think
Winchester
yeah,
Mystery House.
exactly. And you can get tickets. It's running now through...
Yeah, it's called Unhinged, running now through November 2nd.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for
Yeah,
coming
thanks so
on.
much.
Yeah,
guys.
thank you so much,
And
Erin.
we'll be right back. And welcome back to Ecto Portal. So we've been talking about the ghosts of the Winchester Mystery House tonight, and we just spoke a little bit with Erin, who's currently working there. She had to run, but me and Verna were talking on the break because Erin mentioned that she saw this woman, 1920s garb, typing away in a little typewriter at the little room, I guess, which is adjacent up a staircase from Sarah Winchester's room.
She had dark hair, she had makeup, and she was wearing kind of a rose gold kind of dress.
Yes. So we did a little search to see, well, who was Sarah Winchester's secretary, if there was one. And it turns out her niece, her favorite niece, I believe her name was Marion Marriott, correct?
Yes, Marion Marriott,
Marion Isabel Daisy Marriott, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
If this is actually the same person, I'm just looking at William Winchester Merriam. That's her sibling, so it must be. That must be him. Her, I mean. Yeah, so she was born in March 6, 1869 in New Haven, County, which is where Sarah was from.
Mm-hmm.
And she died June 7th in 1949 at age 80 in Palo Alto, Santa Clara. So I would be curious. I'm going to send this picture to Erin and see if this is maybe
The lady that she saw.
This picture looks like a little older maybe than what she would have seen. But maybe if she sees her, this could be her.
Could be her because she might have adapted to fashions later.
That's right. I mean, she didn't die in the house, but that doesn't mean she didn't love working for her aunt as a secretary in the house.
And you know, we were talking about the Pardees, and actually, it's true. She is related to the Pardees who
Is
built
she?
the house in Oakland. Yeah, they talk about it
okay.
right here.
There
yeah.
we go.
So So
Go
good,
figure.
yeah. So a good guess. That's a great guess.
That's interesting. 'Cause
Yeah.
they were also a very prominent family in Oakland. And actually, their historic museum house is next to the Oakland City Hall, I believe,
And it's
by the freeway.
yeah, that would be an interesting house to visit. And so if you're ever in the mood to see a beautiful house and it might have some hauntings, that's another
right.
one.
It is. I've been there on an investigation. It's actually pretty cool. Got
Oh,
some
you
good
have?
stuff,
Oh,
yeah.
how wonderful.
It's pretty small, but it has its own little cupola at the top.
Yeah.
You can go up and sit, and you could look way, way across, which I'm sure was not a freeway, which is what it is now. You can see the freeway. But before then, it was probably like gardens and landscape and other houses. Very nice place to spend an afternoon, I'm sure, back then. But it's a beautiful
Sure.
house. It's completely the same way it's always been. It has its own carriage house. But it's a very, very nice house, and it's interesting. When we saw a party, I'm like, it has to be a relative. It has to be.
Now, don't they also have like a little restaurant and tea room there and stuff for the
It's not
tourists?
a restaurant. There's an actual. They just put it in the dining room, and in the kitchen they prepared, and it's high tea.
How lovely.
And you can. I think it's for like 12 people, maybe
Oh, I like
less.
that.
We had high tea once when we were doing our investigation. We took a break and had high tea, and then went back to investigating.
Nice.
So that was a lot of fun. It's a good museum. You can stop by the party house. They have a little museum. You can go during the day. They also do have paranormal tours at night sometimes.
Oh,
It's about a
Huh.
2-hour to 3-hour paranormal tour. It was about $50 a person, I think. But it's a lot of fun. So check that place out. You can check out the Mystery House and the Party House.
yeah. Nice way to spend an afternoon.
Now, you spent time, obviously, in San Jose. What is your recollection of the hauntings of San Jose besides the ghosts of the Mystery House?
Well, there's actually quite a few haunted places in San Jose. There's a lot of old houses there. There are a lot of old buildings there. And around Campbell and Los Gatos, there's lots of old deserted, well, there used to be. San Jose has changed a lot since I was raised there. But there were a lot of old deserted houses, and you can walk past them, and nobody really lived in them anymore, but they were reputed to be haunted, a lot of those little old houses. And a lot of them, the neighborhoods and the neighbors would say, well, that place, that's very haunted, and you can feel it as you were walking by. And there's also old breweries and warehouses that were used when San Jose was a thriving town that was thriving from the gold rush, just like San Francisco was. And you can walk past a lot of those old places, and you can feel the ghosts there. In Los Gatos too, especially in the Katz Estate. Now the Katz Estate, where the owner, I should have gotten the name straightened out, but okay, in Los Gatos there are there's an estate called the Katz Estate, and there's these two statues of these two cats in the front. One time we were driving past it, and at the time it wasn't really, it was closed and the relatives weren't there, and it wasn't used as a winery yet. And so we were just driving by, and then we turned around and we go, oh, are the relatives home? Are somebody living at that house now? Because we saw an older man like among the garden there by the gates, and his clothes looked out of place. They looked kind of old-fashioned, and he looked at us, and Linda said, yeah, he looks kind of out of place, doesn't he? And so we kind of drove closer, and he just stared at us, and then we just said, well, maybe it's somebody visiting. And we said, well, he looks pretty older. And so we just said, oh, well, and we just drove off, and then we just turned around for a second, and he wasn't there. So we don't know if it was somebody who's connected with the house, and it was a spirit that was hanging around. We just saw him for a moment, or what that was about. Because, I mean, it was just a split second we turned around, and he wasn't even there.
That's crazy.
It was crazy, but one of these days, if you ever go to Los Gatos with me, I'll take you past the Katz Estate. It's very beautiful, and I think now it's open to the public, but that was one of the weirdest things we've ever seen. My mom, when she was alive, she witnessed that, and she'll always remember that, too.
How weird.
Yeah, and my stepfather was with us at the time, too.
Did did he look at you or did he just look your direction?
He actually looked at us. He looked at the car and he looked at us. Yeah.
That's interesting.
And he looked older, kind of stooped, like he was walking around the garden and, kind of slow. But his outfit and the way he looked so out of place. You can just see that outfit that it didn't fit in. Mm-hmm. And he looked at the car and looked at us like we were crazy. And of course, I can understand. I'm walking past your house and looking at your garden through your gate. Of course, they would think you're crazy.
Or, let me go out on a limb here with my theory.
Sure.
You see him, it's a moment in time. He sees you, it's also a moment in time in the future.
Absolutely.
And he doesn't know what the hell he's looking at, and you don't know what the hell you're looking at.
That makes sense to me. And the reason we went that way so much is because, for one thing, we used to go to Los Gatos, but there's also a restaurant we used to go to that's near the Katz estate, and we would drive past there often. Mm-hmm. So that's one ghost that we actually saw from an old estate. But we actually did see a Winchester sighting, and to this day we'll never know if it's a ghost or not. We used to live in the neighborhood vicinity of Winchester House, and Linda worked in a restaurant.
Probably on her old property if it was 162 acres originally.
Yes, exactly. And there was a restaurant Linda worked in that was maybe a couple blocks down. So we would pick up Linda and we would go past the house. So we would drive past it. And one day my mom was driving and Linda and I were in the car. And we looked up, and just for a split second, you know how it's really dark, the house is closed, and there's one of the upper floor windows. And we could have sworn, just for a moment, we saw somebody standing there, like a human figure, someone standing there looking out, just for a moment. And Linda and I turned around, we looked at each other really quick. We go, "Did you see that?" And Linda said, "Is somebody working there, or were the workers there? Are they doing repairs?" And we said, and we were just kind of looking at each other, and Linda said, "I saw that." I go, "I did too." And of course my mom's driving, so she couldn't turn around and look. And she goes, "What did you girls see?" And then we said, "We saw somebody standing up on the windows." She goes, "Oh, my weird daughters," and she just kind of laughed. She goes, "Oh, it's my daughters for you." My mother was clairvoyant herself, but she didn't like to admit it. So,
not clairvoyant that day, apparently.
Not that day. Well, when you're driving you don't have time to look up, but we did. So we'll never know. It was just for a split second. We'll never know if we actually saw something, but we never saw anything like that again. And we drove past that house many times, especially at night. Yeah. So.
I have some interesting facts about the house.
Okay.
In 1906, the Great San Francisco earthquake caused 3 floors, of course, of the 7-story house to cave in. A 1900 postcard of the place shows a tower that was later toppled by the disaster. That tower, plus several other rooms destroyed in the disaster, were never rebuilt, but were sectioned off. As for Sarah, she was safe, but stuck in the Daisy bedroom, named for the floral motif in its windows. She had to be dug out by her staff as an entrance was blocked off by the rubble.
Wow.
That's fascinating that she had to do that.
Yeah.
Some say the labyrinth layout was meant to confuse ghosts, allowing Sarah some peace and a means to escape them. She was the sole architect of the home. No master building plan has ever been uncovered, and Sarah may be the only person who ever truly knows all of its secrets. When movers were called in after her death, one lamented in a labyrinthian design that includes many winding hallways. One mover told American Weekly the Winchester house was a place where downstairs leads to neither the cellar nor upstairs to the roof.
Wow.
Some say the symbols in the house point not to ghosts but Francis Bacon. An alternate theory in the Winchester's perplexing design declares that Sarah was creating a puzzle of encryptions inspired by the work of English philosopher Francis Bacon. There's speculation that clues to the house's true meanings are hidden in the ballroom, the Shakespearean windows, and the iron gates. This theory suggests that Sarah was a member of a mystical society like the Rosicrucians, or a secret society like the Freemasons, or possibly both. That's interesting. It kind of supports what you were saying. Yeah,
because I'm a Rosicrucian, and the lodge claims that Sarah Winchester was actually was a member of our order. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's some other things about the Winchester house that apparently Sarah Winchester snubbed the President of the United States. The story goes that Theodore Roosevelt attempted to visit Sarah at home in 1903, but he was turned away.
Really?
Yeah. Can you imagine that? This is used as an example of her alleged weirdness. Ignafo says that rumors likely started about Sarah because in life she was extremely private, refused to address gossip, and did not engage much in the community. Ignafo said that this infamous presidential visit never occurred. Eyewitness accounts state that the president's carriage never stopped at the Winchester place. Furthermore, she says Winchester had rented a house near San Francisco that year to prepare for the wedding of her niece, so she wasn't at home. So some people claim that she snubbed him, some people claim it never happened.
Or maybe he wanted to and she wasn't home.
Well, that makes sense to me.
You know, she's at the wedding.
You know how it is with rumors that they always... But yeah, that would make sense to me.
Sarah was obsessed with the number 13. Among the secrets that she took to her grave was why she insisted that so many things relate to the number 13. The Winchester house has many 13-pane windows, 13 paneled ceilings, as well as 13 step stairways. Even her will had 13 parts, and she signed it 13 times. But the thing that might be the house's 13th bathroom, which contains 13 windows of its own. So there's no denying there's 13 there, but again, it's
right.
Symbols. Is it related to the Rosicrucian or the Freemasons? Or I don't think it's related to the Freemasons, but maybe the Rosicrucians.
Maybe I think it is. 13 is considered a lucky number in the Rosicrucian tradition. It's also considered a lucky number in a lot of other occult traditions, but it's considered actually a number where everything changes after 12, and it's considered lucky if you get 13. Now, some of, as Aaron mentioned, some of the employees who worked at the mansion have said to have stayed on after her death, and they actually talk about that during the tour too. Mm-hmm. There's footsteps heard shuffling to and from Mrs. Winchester's room, which could be her servants. There's an apparition with black hair who is frequently spotted pushing a wheelbarrow, and they wonder if it's a labor worker. And that's what a present-day worker encountered in the Hall of Fires. There's a hall called the Hall of Fires, named for its fireplaces. And prior to the mansion opening for tours one day, the worker was on a ladder. He felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned around and nobody was there. And the worker refocused his attention on his task, and that's when he felt what seemed like a hand pressing against his back. He was still the only one in the room, but not for long. The worker got out of there fast, leaving the otherworldly laborer alone to handle the job. So,
interesting.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about that. I think maybe he got a tap because maybe that person was afraid he was going to fall, and maybe they were trying to warn him, saying, "Hey, watch with that ladder."
Yep.
You never know.
After her death, no one stepped forward to tell the truth. Former neighbors and workers, along with the two young men who were raised on the Winchester Ranch, attempted to tell the press and the public about the interesting and good woman that Mrs. Winchester was. Their stories fell on deaf ears, and the successful mystery house marketing over the years has made it difficult to find a trace of truth about the real person. So that's interesting. A lot of this is like snubbing the president. It just seems like there's not a lot of real truth to go on.
Well, possibly because she didn't communicate a lot with a lot of people. So the neighbors probably, there wasn't a lot of, they probably didn't know. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot to tell because she probably was a private person. She only had a few key people visit her, and, well, if you don't communicate with people, nobody can tell you anything, really.
Exactly.
So that would make sense.
So it's just, I don't know. There's just so many stories that have stemmed in publicity around the house. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's such a weird place anyway. It just fuels the imagination, and I'm sure a lot of people who worked in doing the publicity over the years for the house have tried different things. Like, I wonder this, I wonder if she did that, and she must have done this because of this. Mm-hmm. And when someone says that or writes it down or tells a newspaper article, it suddenly becomes fact. Someone else reads it and includes it in theirs. it's interesting how we do that as a society, where just because someone's having a conversation like we are in this podcast, well, I wonder if she did this. I wonder if her secretary worked in that room. And if we told someone else and they heard this and said, oh, yeah, she used to have a secretary that was up in that room and someone saw her. And do you know what I mean?
The only people who really knew was probably the servants and the laborers and the
ones
people
that worked for
every day. They
carried over.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they're all long gone, too. They have to be.
Right. And they probably didn't want to, at the time, they didn't want to gossip about the person they worked for. And if there's the house was kind of isolated because there used to be a lot of orchards in San Jose. When I was growing up in San Jose, which there was still a lot of orchards, it was known as a farmland. So there there were neighbors and people nearby, but it wasn't as dense as it is now. So if you didn't communicate with a lot of people, like I mentioned, there's not going to be, the stories can go around, but not very many people are going to be able to witness what really happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
Contractors who worked on the house reported Winchester as having daily seances with local mediums,
right,
in an effort to reach good spirits. These good spirits were reportedly consulted to find out how to best appease the spirits of whom she was allegedly building the house for. These spirits are reportedly what caused Winchester to make so many illogical additions to the home. After the construction was completed, Winchester continued to make efforts to appease the victims of the Winchester rifles. Out of the 13 bathrooms in the home, only one was functional. In an effort to confuse any ghost wishing to haunt a spigot, furthermore, she would sleep in a different room every night in the Winchester house and use secret passageways to get to and from rooms so that no spirit could follow her. In the years that Sarah Winchester lived in the house, the residents of San Jose whispered about its strange construction, strange inhabitant, but in the years after her death, the wild stories became even wilder. In 1922, Sarah Winchester left all of her belongings to her niece Marion, who served as a personal secretary later in life. However, the Winchester Mystery House was never mentioned in her will, adding to the mystery of the home. After appraisers deemed the house worthless due to its strange design, damage from the earthquakes, and long-winded construction, Marion took everything in it and auctioned it off. The current owners of the house claim it took 6 weeks to empty the house of all furniture, though the report is uncorroborated. After the house was empty, a local investor purchased the home for a cool $135,000. Just 5 months after Sarah Winchester died, the Mystery House was open to the public for tours. Despite being fully emptied, refurnished, and open for business, the Mystery House continued to surprise. While Sarah Winchester was alive, stories were told of a storage room in her home filled with $25,000, over $300,000 today, worth of undisplayed riches, including a Tiffany window designed by Winchester herself, featuring a spiderweb design. Well, now we know it wasn't Tiffany.
Yes, right.
In 2016, a secret attic was discovered, though there's no proof it was the same secret storage room. Inside the attic was a pump organ, a Victorian couch, a dress form, a sewing machine, and various paintings.
And those are actually out now in the house, decorating it. Yeah.
A year later, rooms that were never open to the public were put on display, including sections of the home that remained unfinished at the time of her death. Even 95 years after her death, it seemed that Sarah Winchester's house was still holding on to some secrets. Secrets which fuel pop culture obsession with the house. They had the 2018 Helen Mirren Winchester movie. The home has been the setting for numerous supernatural horror movies and novels, and its mere existence provides ample inspiration. Since her death, little's been uncovered about her and her obsession with building the house. She gave no interviews, left no journals, and had no family willing to speak about her. Occasionally, visitors to the home will report feeling the spirits that have long resided in the home, though, of course, paranormal investigations have turned up nothing. But perhaps there's still some spirits haunting the abode. Maybe even Sarah Winchester herself. After all, she built the house for the restless dead. Why not take advantage of it herself?
I've wondered about it. I know they have a surveillance camera. They have to, of course, because with a house as valuable as that. But I just wonder if they should put a live cam, just in case anything is spotted in that.
They must have security cameras, so I'm sure they do.
Security cameras, but I mean a cam where people can actually view it and spot something.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That would be actually very cool.
I would put one in the seance room in her bedroom.
Yeah,
and put those on the website.
Yeah, that would be.
If anyone ever wants to look, they can look at those cams.
Yeah. I mean, it's just an idea.
Maybe after closing hours, like as soon as the tours are done for the day, the cameras are switched on for the internet.
Yeah. So if anybody who works for Winchester House is listening, that might be an idea.
That's actually kind of cool idea.
Yeah, I think so too.
That would be, I mean, for investigators, they would love to just sit and watch. I mean,
Or for them to show it later to tourists and people, saying this is what we've spotted.
yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Mm-hmm. And now that we know, who knows, Erin may have saw Marion, the niece.
She might have, and who knows what she's gonna be there for a while. So who knows what she's gonna see next?
That's right. I'm gonna have to send her an email and let her know what we found.
Yeah, she'll be very cool.
That's
She'll be very
kinda
glad to
cool.
hear that.
I'm gonna have to see if I can find any more pictures of Marion,
Yeah, that would be good.
because I bet you the San Jose paper and the Chronicle in San Francisco might have articles about her auctioning
Oh
off.
yeah, you never know.
And there might be more pictures of her.
Right.
Okay, we are going to be off for 2 weeks. I'm going to Scotland. Verna's going to have a little 2-week vacation off. We're going to come back in October, I think it's 9th.
October 11th, it maybe.
Let's look. We're going to confirm. We don't want to lie to you.
Yeah.
Nope, it's the 9th.
Oh, it is the 9th. Okay.
With another show. So we'll be live again on October 9th. So there won't be anything playing for the next 2 weeks. So you can listen to all our wonderful past archives of shows. There's many, many shows to listen to.
Right, and if anybody has any ideas they want to communicate with us, I'll be happy to answer any messages. Just go to the Ecto portal page and message us, and we're always happy to answer questions and communicate.
That's right. All right.
Okay,
So we'll see you next time.
good night.
Portal.